Good morning, everyone. It's great that so many people attend this session today. And we will interview Ralf Wetzel on business improvisation. Thank you, Ralf, very much for attending this interview. Oh, I cannot hear you, Ralf. You have to unmute your microphone, by the way. I have to unmute you. Oh, that is so great. I love improvisation. Okay, I think now we can hear you.
Yes, I can hear excellently. Good morning and welcome, everyone. And we start already with a power game, which is who has the power to unmute and mute someone. Lucas has all the rights so far. Let's see where and how power is going to be distributed this session or in the next one especially. But in the first place, thanks for having me.
So when I look at your website, I can see that you're a professor at a university and you're a clown. Could you shortly explain who are you and what are you doing professionally?
That's a difficult question to answer. Let me be very briefly. I'm a lecturer and an assistant professor at the business school here in Belgium. And I'm a professor for organization and applied arts. So I have a background in organization theory. And lately I turned into an experience into performance, into improvisation theater, and into clown. And what I actually do here in Brussels is I bring the mindsets and the skill sets and the exercises that you typically learn when you dive into performing arts like theater or like dance to people who want to either start a managerial career or who want to boost their career as such.
So why improvisation? Why has improv become important to you?
That's a big question, and I have to answer that very personally. So I've been a child of the Berlin Wall, not in the sense that I've been incepted by that, but I was 19 when the wall came down, and I grew up in a town called Karl-Marx-Stadt. My father was a businessman, and my mother was a religious teacher, which under the conditions of communism was not a good combination. So I've been indoctrinated with the idea of never ever let someone else read your mind. Never ever let someone else read how you feel, for the sake of protecting my family. And as functional as that was back in communist days, the more dysfunctional it has proven to be after. Meaning after the wall came down, I started to awake cognitively. So I went to university and I got in touch with tons of people who had very different understandings of life and how to live it. But I have always been unreadable, as many have been saying about me. And no one really knew what was going on inside my head, and sometimes not even understood how I felt. And at the end of the day, that was actually happening to myself. So I had no idea what kind of internal life and internal world I had. And that brought me literally down some 25 years later into burnout, where I realized I had completely lost connection to my body. I had completely lost connection to my emotional life. And now improv comes into play. By accident, I bumped into improv theater players. And by accident, I started following their programs. And that turned completely my whole situation in that moment upside down. By the work of improvisation theater in the first place, what happened to me was that I got a reconnection to my intuitive self, to physical and emotional impulses that actually have been there all the time, but unknown and undiscovered for myself. And after that, I went not only deeper into improv theater, I went into theater clown, which makes you even more aware of your emotional life, of the energy that is in the room and living within an audience. It made me aware on how to connect with that. And I realized, especially in clown work, on how fun it can be if you not avoid a failure as we're usually taught in business life and managerial life to shut up and to cover it up, but to explore it and to make it bigger and to go to the end of it, since then something is waiting for you, is my experience, that is by far bigger than any cognitive idea that you might have about a solution in the first place. So it was a journey and discovery which now led me becoming an artist, actually. So I went to the Edinburgh Fringe Festival last year and played a solo clown show there, which by accident got featured by the Financial Times. So, and if you would have asked me 5 or 10 years, or even when I started to begin my career, what I would be doing in 30 years, I would never have imagined that. And what improv for me is, or what it has brought to my life, it has brought a sense of liberating from past constraints and conditions. And it has been a trigger and a path of tremendous personal growth. And now in 2020, strangely, we're in a place where I'm strangely reminded of what happened 30 years ago, since we are in another tremendously huge societal disruption. And I can very much relate to the feelings that I've been having 30 years ago, which was a mixture between terror on the one side of not knowing what comes next, and a thrill that something else is coming to the fore. And Václav Havel, the Czech president and poet by the time, said, "We seem to be in a moment where modern times are ending. And something is dying and on its way out, and something else is painfully born, but we can't grasp it yet." And I feel in the lockdown that we're having, and in the emotional constraints that we're in, and in the hope that something might change, and that there are many places that we don't want to go back to, I kind of am reminded of being in the same emotional place. And what I learned by improv and by clown and by dance was, if you apply an improv mindset, and we're going to discover that over the full week, I'm just a tiny bit in the beginning. The most important thing that happens if you follow that mindset and that skill set is you remain absolutely open to the options and the possibilities that are in a moment that you don't know. And it helps you to disconnect from the core, what I found the core enemies of human development, which is judgment, which is fear, and which is cynicism. And we're going to discover that mindset today in a sense of being playful, being in the moment, and being connected with someone else. And with applying that mindset, you keep a spirit that allows you to discover the treasures that are in the moment, the treasure of not being alone wherever you are, and making someone else look good, who will reversely take very good care of yourself, that you're not panicking in those actually very frightening moments. So improv and performing arts for me since the last 5 years have been a tremendously exciting and terrifying journey. It's been a complete game changer and life changer, professionally as much as privately. And we are just about, in this very minute, and then I stop for a moment. I'm a co-founder of a global movement, which is called the Global Play Brigade, which is now starting from China, actually, of bringing playfulness and connectivity and mental relief by means of improv, by clown, by dance, and by other means all over the world, for the sake of making people present in what's actually possible, present in the moment, supporting each other, and bringing society forward on a literally a global level. So what started as an experiment 5 years ago has not only transformed me professionally and privately, it has completely defined me, who I am. And in another session, someone else said, what I have been gone through all my life is what I need right now and what I can employ right now. And I can fully second and submit to that. Since we are in a highly precarious and highly pretentious situation as 30 years ago. And the idea of improv and the mind and the skill set of performing arts behind in a bigger scale actually is something that is desperately missing in today's world, I believe, and I feel and I see it from personal experience. And especially when it comes to management and to organizational leadership, the classic traits, the classic cognitive and non-physical and rational and objective strains and constraints and path dependency of management science come to their boundaries right now. And those situations that we're having here are very difficult to handle from a classic managerial point of view. And the striking thing to me along this journey was the fact that this alternative that actually management needs so desperately right now is standard operating procedure in performing arts since decades. And as long as management scientists and practitioners don't start to leave their own realm and their own traits and their own cognitive blindfolds in a way, like with horses, as long as we don't do that, it's going to be a painful journey, while actually the solution is waiting next door.
Thank you very much for this wonderful, also personal sharing, how you understand improvisation and what you experience with that. And yes, we are in a situation that is very different than the last years, even decades. And as you said, like in management science, we're more like, having a straightforward way, having our key measurements, and then trying to have our plans. Mm-hmm. Now, my question is, because this is what people learn to have, the project plans and the goals, the purposes, and so on. But how can we learn to also use these skills and the mindset that you described for our daily business, to be more open to that, to accept perhaps even the fear that is all around us?
How? Very simple, by just going out and opening the door to the next room that is actually just there waiting for us to enter. And in my own experience as an organizational and management scientist, I must say there is so much lock-in within the scientific management community. You all what you need is a little bit of courage, just to leave the path dependencies of the places that you came from. Now, a wonderful friend of mine, a Jamaican yoga teacher in Bali, said to me lately, courage is the fear that has paid its prayers. So the fear is a starting point, actually, that you are at a place where something else can happen. And the point is, what are you going to do with the fear? And Otto Scharmer, in one of his recent talks about his Gaia journey, he said, we have a choice to make between, in a situation like this, where things are in a lockdown, where things are disconnected, where people get isolated, and where some sort of a massive disruption is taking place. We have a choice to make between either turning inward and hiding and becoming defensive and fearful, or we turn towards someone or something. And that's a choice that we have to do individually. This is a responsibility that each and every one of us have, and no one really can take away this responsibility from each and every one of us. And And we have a responsibility for that as a collective. So, and the good thing is, if you go on a stroll with someone else, you might end up somewhere else. You might discover something about the other person, and you might discover something about yourself too. And as quick as you're not alone, and I think, again, that comes very well, that is bringing us down to the business of improv at the end. If you're not alone, the mindset of improvisation can help you to very closely relate to anyone around you. And one of the core things that I learned from improv is it's about making someone else feel safe in your hands and trying to take away the fear that the other person might be trapped in. And the striking thing to me always was, this is circular, this is reversive. So as quick as I focus on on someone else's mental well-being in that sense, I dilute from my own panic and fear. I focus on something else, and I get usually a reward from the other person, meaning this person as quick as he or she understands that someone is taking care of him, wants to give this care back to me. So it's a positive self-enforcing spiral that goes on, that can help you to de-stress in the utmost needed moments, meaning when the old stuff that you are used to is crumbling away, as now or 30 years ago. And the new thing that you actually kind of are hopeful about is not there yet. You can't grasp it. You don't know how it looks like. And those are, in a way, the most terrifying and the most exciting moments. And the mindset and the skill set of improv can help you to substantially capitalize, if I may use this business term, on exactly those moments. You have the chance in the moment when everything, the old is gone, the new is not here yet. You can hide, or you can expose yourself. You can throw yourself into and make it a joy ride and a fun ride, based on curiosity and courageousness. But you usually need someone else to go there, because you need to kind of reduce the amount of fear, of cynicism, and of judgment along the way. So how is just go and grab someone else and pull him or her with you. And especially when you're panicking, when you're getting afraid, focus on the other, make the other one look good, and enjoy the fact that as quick as you do that, someone else will take care of your fear too. And this is so much relieving and liberating for your own personal well-being and for your own personal courage. And it's so rewarding to discover something that you have literally no idea of, but which will usually be stronger and more powerful and more fun than you actually have expected.
So thank you very much for answering all the questions that I would have posed you.
Okay.
You did not answer them before, but it's wonderful. I thought like, oh, I would ask this question and you already answered that. So thank you very much for these answers and my hidden questions that you didn't see or hear.